بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. غفر الله لنا ولشيخنا وللحاضرين والمسلمين. يقول الإمام المجدد رحمه الله تعالى في كتاب آداب المشي إلى الصلاة: وينبغي السجود لسهوه لعموم قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم: إذا نسي أحدكم فليسجد سجدتين، وإن سلم قبل إتمامها عمدا بطلت، وإن كان سهوا ثم ذكر قريبا أتمها، ولو خرج من المسجد أو تكلم يسيرا لمصلحتها، وإن تكلم سهوا أو نام فتكلم أو صدق على لسانه حال قراءته كلمة من غير القرآن لم تبطل، وإن قهقه بطلت إجماعا إلا إن تبسم، وإن نسي ركنا غير التحريمية فذكره في قراءة التي بعدها بطلت التي تركه منها، وصارت الأخرى عوضا عنها، ولا يريد الاستفتاح، قاله أحمد. وإن ذكره قبل الشروع في القراءة عاد فأتى به وبما بعده. وإن نسي التشهد الأول ونهض لزمه الرجوع والإتيان به ما لم يستتم قائما، لحديث المغيرة رواه أبو داود. ويلزم المأموم متابعته، ويسقط عنه التشهد ويشدد للسهو. ومن شك في عدد الركعات بنى على اليقين، ويأخذ مأموم عند شكه بفعل إمامه، ولو أدرك الإمام راكعا وشك هل رفع الإمام رأسه قبل إدراكه راكعا لم يعتد بتلك الركعة. وإذا بنى على اليقين أتى بما بقي، ويأتي به المأموم بعد السلام إمامه ويسجد للسهو. وليس على المأموم سجود سهو إلا أن يسهو إمامه فيسجد معه، ولو لم يتم التشهد ثم يتمه بعد سجوده. ويسجد مسبوق لسلامه مع إمامه. أحسن عليك. ويسجد مسبوق لسلامه مع إمامه سهوا ولسهوه معه، وفيما انفرد به، ومحله قبل السلام إلا إذا سلم عن نقص ركعة، فأكثر لحديث عمران وذي اليدين. وإلا فيما إذا بنى على غالب ظنه إن قلنا به فيسجد ندبا بعد السلام، لحديث علي وابن مسعود. وإن نسيه قبل السلام أو بعده أتى به ما لم يطل الفصل. والسجود السهو وما يقول فيه وبعد رفعه كالسجود الصلاة. أحسن عليكم بارك الله فيكم. The Shaykh Hafidhullah Ta'ala began by mentioning the name of Allah. We praise Him, we seek His assistance, and we seek refuge in Allah from the evil of ourselves and the evil of our deeds. Indeed, Allah Azza wa Jalla is alone, He has no partners. For Him is the dominion and the praise, and He is able to do all things. And the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His messenger, who He sent as a mercy to mankind. He gave the message, He fulfilled the trust, and He was sincere for the ummah. He fought in the way of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And may Allah be pleased with His companions, those who believed in Him, who migrated with Him, who migrated to Him, and who fought during His time and after His time until the flag of Islam was spread in the east and the west. May Allah be pleased with them and make us from amongst those who are sincere and truthful in our love of them and our adherence to their way. Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdulwahhab rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned in this treatise, The Etiquette of Walking to Salat, and the Shaykh mentioned Hafidhullah Ta'ala that this book is very beneficial for the individual to read, even if he is not from the people of knowledge, so that the individual can know that which is upon him, that which is mandatory upon him in this great act of worship. And indeed, the greatest pillar after the declaration of faith is the prayer. And it is upon the Muslim to pray as the Prophet prayed, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as he mentioned, pray as you see me pray. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned this to his companions. Then the Shaykh Habibullah Ta'ala said, the Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdulwahhab Rahimahullah Ta'ala said that it is upon an individual to make the prostrations for forgetfulness due or based upon the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If any of you forgets something, then he should make the 2 prostrations for forgetfulness. And the Shaykh said, Habibullah Ta'ala, so if an individual forgets something in the prayer, or the individual has added something in the prayer, and the Shaykh Habibullah Ta'ala, he says at the end that this is referring to the pillars, this is referring to the wajibat of the salat. It's referring to the wajibat of the salat. If a person forgets them, if a person forgets something of the prayer or adds something to the prayer, then they would make the prostration for forgetfulness at the end of the prayer. Then the Shaykh said, Habibullah Ta'ala, for example, if the person forgets the tashahhud al-awwal, if the person forgets the first tashahhud, and the prayer is 3 units of prayer, or it's 4 units of prayer, and the person has forgotten the first tashahhud, and they've continued in the prayer, then the individual has to pray, or the individual has to make the prostrations for forgetfulness. Then the author Rahimahullah Ta'ala says, if the person makes taslim, if the person has forgotten something in the prayer, and they make taslim, they've forgotten something in the prayer, and they make taslim, they haven't brought that action, they make taslim, and they end the prayer. They end the prayer, and they do this on purpose. They do this on purpose. They have forgotten something in the prayer, they end the prayer, they make taslim, and they do this on purpose, then the prayer is invalid. Then the prayer is invalid. But if the person, the Shaykh mentioned Habibullah Ta'ala, when the author said that, the Shaykh said Habibullah Ta'ala, that the prayer, there is no room for play when it comes to the prayer. The prayer has to be taken very serious, and the prayer has to be in accordance with the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then the author says, Rahimahullah Ta'ala, if the person remembers that they have forgotten something in the prayer, and this is related to the pillars of the prayer. The person remembers that they have forgotten something in the prayer. This is related to the pillars of the prayer, and the time is close. The person completes it and finishes the prayer and prays the prostration for forgetfulness. They complete it. They complete the action that they forgot. They complete the rest of the prayer, and they pray the prostration for forgetfulness. Even if the person has left the masjid. Even if the person has left the masjid. The Shaykh said, Habibullah Ta'ala, for example, the Imam, he has forgotten something in the prayer. And the congregation has followed him in that which he has forgotten. And the Imam left from the masjid, and then he remembered. He remembered that something was missing from the prayer. It is upon him to return to the prayer, and he leads the people in completing the prayer. He leads the congregation in completing the prayer, yani making up for that which they left, that which was not completed. They complete the prayer, then they pray the prostration for forgetfulness. Then the author Rahimahullah Ta'ala says, even if the person says something, or they say something by mistake. For example, the individual, the Shaykh said, the individual forgets that he's praying. And he says to someone that has come to his home, enter the house. He forgot that he's praying. He said to someone, enter the house. then the Shaykh said he completes his prayer. He completes his prayer because he did it out of mistake. As the author said, وَإِن تَكَلَّمَ سَهْوًا. If the person speaks but he does so out of mistake. Likewise, and the person prays the prostration for forgetfulness. They also pray the prostration for forgetfulness. Then the Shaykh said, Habib Allah Ta'ala, but if the person speaks with that which is not from the prayer on purpose, if the person speaks with that which is not from the prayer on purpose, the prayer is considered invalid. The prayer is considered invalid. Then he says, but you also may have an individual that sleeps. Someone, the Imam has elongated the prayer and the person falls asleep. And this is done, and maybe the person, while he's sleeping, he says something. He said, the author says, أَوْ نَامَ فَتَكَلَّمَ, meaning the person has fallen asleep and they said something. And this was done not on purpose. Or while the person is reading the Quran, they say a word. They say a word, they say the name of Allah Azza wa Jal, or they say Subhanallah, and they do this by mistake. لَمْ تَبْطُلْ. The author says the prayer is not invalid. The prayer is still valid. And the Shaykh said, Habib Allah Ta'ala, for example, the person may say Subhanallah, or the person may say the name of Allah Azza wa Jal, but they do this by mistake. They did not intend to do this. The prayer is still valid. The prayer is still valid. Then the author, Rahimahullah Ta'ala, mentions, وَإِن قَحْقَحَ بَطَلَتْ إِجْمَاعًا. There's a consensus, if the person laughs, and they do this with a voice, then the prayer is invalid, and there's a consensus in this regard. The Shaykh said, Habib Allah Ta'ala, but if the person smiles, if a person smiles, this does not break the prayer. This does not break the prayer, because it took place that the Prophet ﷺ smiled in the prayer, but he did not make a voice, nor did he laugh sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He simply smiled when he remembered something, so the prayer is still valid. Then the author Rahimahullah Ta'ala mentions, and if the person forgets one of the pillars other than the entering of the prayer, other than the takbirat al-ihram, if the person forgets any of the pillars and then they remember it while they're if a person forgets a pillar of the prayer in the first unit, they forget a pillar of the prayer in the first unit, and now they've entered into the second unit of prayer, and they remember other than takbirat al-ihram, other than the opening takbir, but they remember while they're in the second unit of the prayer. They remember while they're in the second unit of the prayer, they forget, and they have to, the first unit becomes invalid, and that unit that they're in becomes the first unit. That unit that they're in becomes the first unit. Except takbirat al-ihram. If a person, as the Shaykh said, Habib Allah Ta'ala, if a person forgets takbirat al-ihram, and then they are in the prayer, whenever they remember that they forgot takbirat al-ihram, they have to go back to takbirat al-ihram and start the prayer from the beginning. And start the prayer from the beginning, because the prayer is not valid without the opening takbir. The prayer is not valid without the opening takbir. Then the Shaykh said, he gave an example, Habib Allah Ta'ala. For example, if a person forgets the sajda, let's say a person forgets, a person makes the first rak'ah. They stood up, they bowed, they stood up, and before, let's say they did the first sujood, but they didn't do one of the sujoods, and they stood up for the second rak'ah. They forgot one of the sujoods during the first unit of the prayer. They stood up for the second unit of the prayer. And then they remembered. That they forgot the first sajda, or they forgot one of the sajdas. That first rak'at is invalid. That first rak'at is invalid, and the second rak'at which they are in becomes the first rak'at. The second rak'at which they are in becomes the first rak'at. Then the Shaykh said, Habib Allah Ta'ala, but they don't have to repeat the opening takbir, because they've already said the opening takbir. The opening takbir, the dua, that is valid. So once again, if the person forgets something of the pillars in the first unit of the prayer, and they have begun the second unit of the prayer, and they realize, they return to they make that unit of prayer that they're in, they make it the first one. They cancel the first one, they make the one that they're in the first one, but they don't start with the opening takbir, because they've already said that. Now, then the Shaykh mentioned, Habib Allah Ta'ala, but if the person, then he gave another example, if the person remembers, let's say, mathalan, the person is at the end of the first unit of the prayer. They've made the rak'ah, and now it's time for sajda. So they make the first sajda, mathalan. They make the first sajda. And now they're about to get up. The individual is about to get up. Does he start the unit of prayer over? No. If he's about to get up and he remembers, no, he immediately goes down and he makes the second sajda which he forgot. He immediately goes down and he makes the second sajda that he forgot. So as long as you have not entered into the second unit of prayer, you can return and complete the action that you forgot in the first unit, and then you continue the prayer from there, and you still pray the prostration for forgetfulness. With regards to not repeating the dua al-istiftah, this was mentioned by Imam Muhammad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala. So as long as the person has made the dua al-istiftah, the opening takbir, then they don't repeat that. They return to where they return to what they forgot, and they complete the prayer from there. Then the author mentioned rahimahullah ta'ala, and that's what the Shaykh said, he already said it, and if the person remembers before they enter into the second unit of the prayer, and before they begin the recitation, if they remember, and like we said, the Shaykh said, Habib Allah Ta'ala, for example, if the person forgot a sajda, and now the person he's about to go into the second unit of prayer, but before he begins to recite, he remembers. Before he begins to recite, he remembers that he forgot a sajda, then he just goes back and he completes it. He doesn't begin the second unit of the prayer. And then he continues it from there. Then the author rahimahullah ta'ala mentions, if the person forgets the first tashahhud, if the person forgets the first tashahhud, and they, and the author says, and the person went down. So the person, they've recited. The person has recited Surah Al-Fatiha. They've recited another surah. And they're in a standing position. Instead of bowing, they go immediately into sajda. Instead of bowing, they go immediately into sajda. The Shaykh mentioned, Habib Allah Ta'ala, that they have to come up. They have to come up and they have to complete it. وَإِنَّ نَسْهِ الشَّهَادَ الْأَوَّلِ وَنَحَدَ لَزِمَ الرُّجُوعَ وَالْإِتْيَانِ بِهِ. Now, so if the person, مثلا, so مثلا, if an individual recites in the first unit of prayer, then the individual goes into, I want to correct myself, the individual recites in the first unit of prayer, and then they go into and this is the first tashahhud, mathalan. The individual has recited, they've gone into the tashahhud, but instead of going into the tashahhud, they're about to stand. The individual is about to stand. The Shaykh mentioned Habib Allah Ta'ala, but they haven't stood up completely. The individual hasn't stood up completely. They sit and they complete the tashahhud. They sit and they complete the tashahhud. But if the person has stood up completely, once again let me say it so it's clear, the person has finished the unit of prayer. Now it's time to make tashahhud, and this is the first, not the second. This is the first tashahhud. The person has finished the unit of prayer. They should sit and make tashahhud. But instead of making tashahhud, they stand slightly. The person stands slightly and then he remembers. He immediately sits and he completes the tashahhud. But if the person has stood up completely, they forgot the first tashahhud and they stood up completely. If they have stood completely, then it's overlooked, and at the end of the prayer they have to pray the two prostrations for forgetfulness. They have to pray the two prostration for forgetfulness. Now, Then the author rahimahullah ta'ala mentions, and this is based on the hadith of Al-Mughira, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, which is mentioned in the Sunan of Abi Dawud. And it is also obligatory upon the ma'moon to follow the imam. The Shaykh said, Habibullah ta'ala, if something took place that the imam forgot something, if something took place that the imam forgot something, but the followers did not, but so at the end of the prayer, the imam has to pray the prostration for forgetfulness, and the followers have to as well. And the followers have to as well, even if the mistake only happened for the imam. Even if the mistake only happened for the imam. But that which does not have to be brought is the first tashahhud. Now, the first tashahhud. So if the imam has forgotten, and those who are in the congregation, if they have forgotten the first tashahhud, they don't come with it. They don't come with it because it's from the wajibat of the salah, but at the end of the prayer, they have to pray the prostration for forgetfulness. Then the Shaykh said, Habibullah ta'ala, and that which the author mentioned about the ma'moom, the congregation following the imam, the Shaykh gave an example of that. And that was, if the imam forgot the first tashahhud, the prayer is 3 units of prayer or 4 units of prayer, like Salat al-Maghrib or Salat al-Dhuhr. The imam has forgotten the first tashahhud, and he stood all the way up. There should be a tashahhud, but he forgot it. He stood all the way up. The followers, the congregation, this is a mistake, right, by the imam. But the congregation, they have to follow him. They have to follow him. They stand up, they complete the prayer, and at the end, all of them pray the prostration for forgetfulness. Yani they don't wait. The Shaykh mentioned Habibullah ta'ala, they have to follow the imam. If he forgot one of the wajibat, they have to follow him. Even though it's a mistake, that which he did, they have to follow him. And they pray the prostration for forgetfulness at the end of the prayer. And the Shaykh mentioned, Habibullah ta'ala, that we have to keep in mind and remember that the shaitan is very diligent in making people forget during the prayer. The shaitan tries to make you forget during the prayer, so you're not sure what you have prayed. Then the author, rahimahullah ta'ala, mentions, if the person is doubtful about the number of units that he has completed, then he bases his actions upon what he is sure of. He bases his actions upon what he is sure of. The Shaykh said, Habibullah ta'ala, an explanation of that. He said, for example, a person is not sure. Have they prayed 4 units or 3 units? Or have they prayed 2 units? Or 2 units or 3 units? The person bases it on the less number. They base it on the less number. So if you're not sure, did you pray 2 or 3? You base it on 2. If you're not sure, did you pray 3 or 4? You base it on 3. You go to the lowest number. The Shaykh said, even if a person is not sure, did they pray 1 or 2? They would base it on 1. So they would say, okay, I've only prayed 1, so they add another one. This is what is meant by you build it on that which you're certain of. And the Shaykh, the author rahimahullah ta'ala, mentioned that the one who is being led in the prayer, the one who is being led by the congregation, if he is doubtful about something, he takes the actions of the imam. He takes the actions of the imam. So if you're not sure, did you pray 3 or 4? Just follow the imam. Just follow the imam. Then the author rahimahullah ta'ala mentions, if a person enters into the masjid and they caught the imam in the bowing position, in the ruku', but they're not sure, did the imam rise up before they entered? Before they entered into the prayer, did the imam rise up or not? What does the person do? They said, no, I did not catch him. So the person considers that he did not catch the imam if he is not sure, did the imam rise from the ruku' or not? So the Shaykh said, Habibullah ta'ala, so the person, they dissolve the doubt by saying, no, I did not reach him, I did not catch him. So if you're not sure, if you entered into the rak'ah, or the ruku', afwan, if you're not sure if you entered into the ruku' before the imam raised, or rose from the ruku', you say no, you did not, and you complete the prayer from there. And you complete the prayer from there. And then the Shaykh said, Habibullah ta'ala, so once you base your prayer off of the lowest number, So if you doubt, did you do 2 or 3, you base it off of 2. Also, if you doubt, did you catch the Imam while he was in the ruku' or not? You said, no, I didn't catch him. And then you complete the prayer from there. Then you complete the prayer from there, and you pray the sajda. And you pray the sajda. So notice, yani you pray the sajda even if you doubt. 1 or 2, you base it on 1, you pray the sajda. Likewise, what the author mentioned, if you are not sure, did you catch the Imam? If you are not sure, if you caught the Imam while he was in the ruku', this is a doubt. So you say to yourself, no, I did not catch him. So you complete the prayer from there and you pray sajda. Why do you pray sajda? Because you have a doubt. You have a doubt, and the prostration for forgetfulness is for forgetfulness, for adding to the prayer, and also for doubt about the prayer. Now, then the author rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned and the person who has a doubt, the person who has a doubt whether he prayed 1 or 2, after the Imam makes taslim, he would pray the prostration, he would do the prostration for forgetfulness. So mathalan, the Shaykh mentioned, Habibullah ta'ala, someone enters into the masjid and they're not sure. They're not sure, did they catch the Imam in the ruku' or not? So they have a doubt. But the Imam is not going to pray the 2 prostrations for forgetfulness. The Imam is not going to pray the prostration for forgetfulness. But this individual has a doubt, so he would pray. After the Imam finishes, and he finishes his prayer, he would complete the prayer and pray the prostration for forgetfulness. Then the Shaykh mentioned, Habibullah ta'ala, and what should be done is that it is at the end of, once you make, and the individual who, the Shaykh mentioned, Habibullah ta'ala, if the individual has to complete a prayer, if the individual mathalan has come late and he has to complete the prayer, and he's making tashahhud, and the Imam makes the prostration for forgetfulness, even while you're making tashahhud, if the Imam makes prostration for forgetfulness, you make the prostration with him. You make the prostration with him, even if you did not complete the tashahhud, and after you make the prostration, you complete the tashahhud. This was mentioned by the Shaykh Habibullah ta'ala, meaning even if you have to cut the tashahhud, the Imam makes taslim, the Imam makes the prostration, and he makes taslim, you're still doing tashahhud. You stop the tashahhud, you make the prostration with the Imam, and then you complete the tashahhud thereafter. Then the Shaykh mentioned, Habibullah ta'ala, then the Shaykh mentioned, Habibullah ta'ala, the individual who has, the author rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned that the individual who has entered the prayer late, if the Imam makes the prostration for forgetfulness, the individual who enters the prayer late, if the Imam makes the prostration for forgetfulness, the person prays with the Imam. Then also, if this individual has forgotten something in the prayer himself, when he completes his prayer, he also prays the prostration for forgetfulness. Then the author rahimahullah ta'ala goes on to mention where is the prostration for forgetfulness. This is before the taslim. The Shaykh said, Habibullah ta'ala, this is before the taslim. And he said, and this is based on the hadith of Imran bin Hussein, and also on another hadith, this is based on the hadith of Imran bin Hussein and others from amongst the companions. This is before the taslim. Then the author rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned, but if someone is doubtful that they added something to the prayer, then the author said it is recommended to do it after the taslim. It's recommended to do it after the taslim, and this is based on the hadith of Ali and Ibn Mas'ud. It's based on the hadith of Ali and Ibn Mas'ud. And the Shaykh mentioned, Habibullah ta'ala, is it before or is it after? The Shaykh said it is better that it is done before. it is better that the sujood for prostration, prostration for forgetfulness, is done before the taslim. Why? Because it's possible that some individuals came to the prayer late. It's possible that some individuals came to the prayer late. So if the imam makes the taslim and then does the sujood, those people that came to the prayer late, once the taslim is made, the people would stand up. And then once the imam makes the prostration, they would have to sit back down, so it becomes confusing. So the shaykh said, Habibullah Ta'ala, as long as it's permissible to do it before or after, it is better that the prostration for forgetfulness is done before the taslim, so that if there are some late people, they can do it with the imam. It's done in order, no one is confused, and then they get up to complete the prayer thereafter. They get up to complete the prayer thereafter. So in order, so that there's no confusion, and it's permissible to do it before or after, the shaykh said, Habibullah Ta'ala, that it's better to do the prostration before the taslim, especially in the congregation, so that the people don't become confused. So that the people don't become confused. Then the shaykh said, Habibullah Ta'ala, if the person has forgotten something from the prayer, or the person has forgotten the prostration for forgetfulness, and then they remember and the time is close, they should return, complete it, and do the prostration for forgetfulness. And then the shaykh said, Habibullah Ta'ala, in clarification of everything that he mentioned in the lesson tonight, he said, this is for the arkan of the prayer. This is for the pillars of the prayer. Meaning, if a person remembers and they return to complete the prayer, it's for the pillars of the prayer, not for the wajibat of the prayer. Because the wajibat is, if someone forgets it, they make the prostration for forgetfulness at the end and the prayer is valid. But with regards to the pillars of the prayer, if you forget it, the prayer is not valid until you come with that which you forgot. So the shaykh said, Habibullah Ta'ala, so anything related to the pillars of the prayer, you have to come with that action and complete the prayer from that point. Complete the prayer from that point, and then pray the prostration for forgetfulness. And then he said, for example, the actions which are from the wajibat, not from the pillars. For example, the first tashahhud. If a person forgets the first tashahhud, and they finish the rest of the prayer, they don't have to go back to the first tashahhud. Why? Because it is from the wajibat and not from the pillars of the prayer. And the shaykh mentioned Habibullah Ta'ala, or he said likewise, if a person forgot from the wajibat of the prayer, for example, the person forgot the first tashahhud. Shaykh said Habibullah, and he said it last week as well. If the person forgot the first tashahhud, and they forgot to do the prostration for forgetfulness, and the time has passed, the prayer is still valid. The prayer is still valid, because it is from the wajibat of the prayer. It is not from the arkan of the prayer. Then the shaykh mentioned Habibullah Ta'ala, but one of his scholars, Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdulwahhab rahimahullah ta'ala, he felt that a person, no matter how much time had passed, the person should come with the prostration for forgetfulness. The shaykh mentioned Habibullah Ta'ala that if the time has passed, they don't, and the prayer is still valid. But the shaykh mentioned Habibullah Ta'ala, one of the opinions of his teachers, who was Shaykh Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that even if the time has passed, you still should pray the prostration for forgetfulness, because you should preserve this part of the legislation. Then the shaykh said, Habibullah Ta'ala, he closed the lesson by saying that a person, they should read what was mentioned here, and they should reflect over it, and they should implement it. He said they should read it, and they should reflect over it and implement it in their prayer, so that they are sure that they are doing what's correct. They are sure that they are doing what is correct if any of these instances happen in their prayer.